Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Seahawk Talk here on the Salve Athletics Network. I am Andrew Pizzelli, coming to you live from Narragansett, Rhode Island, and we're broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope through Twitter. We've got a great show for you here today, a re-entry Monday, so to speak. We're going to have Jody Mooradian, Adam Zaccara, Pat Cooney, and Eric Cirella on the program here today. Can't wait to get to them and hear how their weeks and weekend went. We're also going to hear from the producers in a short moment, but first we want to remind everyone to keep their distance. All right, that is the Shake with Keep Your Distance, our constant message here on Seahawk Talk. I'd like to bring in now the producers, Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco. Fellas, how are we doing here on a Monday afternoon?
Awesome, Andrew. How about you?
Doing good. Like I said, last week, we're in that double digits of left in 2020. I was almost going to say left in coronavirus, if only we knew.
Maybe.
But double digits left in 2020 and final week of September. So bringing on the fall. I'm ready for the fall. What have you guys got here to lead off today's show?
One of the things I was looking at this morning in the local paper was so some Newport restaurants actually. We were talking a little bit about how they weren't able to stay, or how they were losing a lot of money, obviously due to the circumstances, and that they're now looking to stay open until the late winter. The owner of Beau Rue, which is a restaurant on 36 Broadway, was saying that they're weighing their options, but one of the things they're really looking at is getting electric heaters and tents in order to stay open even later into like maybe even possibly December. Also, when I was reading, I was looking at a statement from the governor, Gina Raimondo, who said that $1 million in federal funds will be put aside to help these small businesses stay afloat during these times. So some good news there. And I know most of us, still love going to these places, even though it's cold. So if they could find some way, just, make it tolerable, I'm sure they'd still attract a large amount of business.
Did you guys do the eat out thing much during the summer, whether you were home or now being back at Newport? I did I'd pick up sandwiches and stuff maybe, and then go sit somewhere. Or if there was like a shack that, you had outdoor seating, but the outdoor restaurant thing, have you guys done any of that throughout the summer or now?
I had gone like a good amount this summer, just mainly when I was up in Newport, just like visiting friends and stuff. I would go out, but I mean, they did a very good job. It's obviously, not the same kind of environment when you're going, but it's still, it's still a good time, and I feel like you end up spending just as much the same amount of money. So, no difference there at least.
Did they shut down Thames? I know they had talked about doing like the European style where they shut down like a whole street so people can be eating outside and then walking around off the sidewalk down the street. Did they do any of that in Newport? I know that had been talked about.
This summer I noticed, more people walking around with to-go stuff, but that was more towards the beginning. There was I know Gary's had moved their whole setup outside for a little bit, which like just if you see it was like just in that little side lot that they have there on Thames, and it was you'd have people going out and like takeout containers they can eat there. I know Red Parrot does a to-go option where you can go, and then they have a little porch that they like sponsor there that you can take it to. So I've seen a little bit of that, but less now that restaurants are just slowly becoming more and more open.
Joey, were you DoorDash all summer long?
No, I mean, I didn't really eat out. And we ordered food for pickup like a handful of times. The only restaurant I went to is, I don't know what it was called, but I went to some restaurant for my sister's wedding, like afterwards, what do you call it, reception. We went to a restaurant, but other than that, I just ate food at home. we're not really like a go out to eat family anyway. So like,
We cooked at home for probably the first like month and a half, 2 months, and then we said we balanced like okay, we feel comfortable with the takeout situations at some places, and contactless pickup at some places, and it was they had worked out the kinks, uh, and then still buying groceries, and then it's bad like the last month, like between coming back to work and then still having everything going on, the laziness is set in so bad. We got to go
oh,
grocery shopping today. We're tapped out. The cupboards are bare. It's time to go get some actual groceries. Joey, do you have anything to lead off today's show?
yeah, not necessarily news in the normal sense, but as you can see and as people can see, more like half the week, I am now in Seahawk Radio Studio, and we should, emphasis on should, be coming to you live from Radio FX as well, where you can listen in audio only on Salve's own radio station app. So you go to the App Store, called Radio FX, all one word. You can make an account or log in with Facebook. You don't need to though. And when you open it, it'll ask like, what school are you? Just type in Salve Regina or Seahawk Radio or like any of those words, and it'll show up. And you select it, and you should be able to hear us. I don't know because I'm running it through my phone, so I can't test it if we can hear it, or else we will no longer be able to hear it. But hopefully it works, and hopefully this will be a regular thing because I'm usually over here on Monday and Tuesday.
Just another way for people to catch Seahawk Talk.
Yeah.
We're live on Facebook and YouTube and Periscope. We've got a podcast version. Now we're on the radio.
Yeah.
We got a simulcast. We got to get like a contract. Simulcast to a television. One of the TV apps.
That's the last thing we need.
Syndication on cable television. That's what we need. And collect a paycheck from TV money. I want to just bring up kind of a local thing. PC and URI men's basketball, they're D1. They are heading towards having their seasons, but like everybody else who's trying to schedule sports right now, it's all going to be happening in January into the spring, and so your season is condensed, and so you lose out on a lot of your non-conference games because they want to try and have the conferences. That's what's important. That's what's most meaningful. So there's not going to be a PC URI basketball game this year, which is one of those, it's just the in-state rivalry, and at least in the, in recent years, the games are always usually good between them, but PC and URI have both been so good the last couple of years, kind of disappointing, but not surprising. It just speaks to a lot of the challenges that all these leagues, professional all the way down to collegiate, and then, you definitely in the high school level too, are struggling, trying to get games in.
Yeah, we can just hope, maybe they'll both make the NCAA tournament if there is one, and we'll get to see one matchup between them, That would be good for Rhode Island.
That would be really good. That would be good. People have been hoping for that for years.
Possibly less teams, better chance for us,
Yes, true. It is going to be a smaller field for a lot of the championships. So that'd be even more special. So you're right, Mike. We can still get it.
Yeah.
You're staying. There's a chance.
Don't give up hope. Yep. Don't give up hope yet.
All right. Well, fellas, I'm gonna let you guys get to work behind the scenes, helping to produce the show. Joey, you got double duty. You got to produce the radio side and this side.
I do. I got to make sure it's going.
Got to give you a raise. Anyways, we're going to talk to you guys later. That's Jody Mooradian and Mike DeFusco. And we're going to go now to Salve Regina's athletic director, Jody Mooradian, joining us first on the program here this week. Jody, how are you? How was your weekend?
Oh, it was great. Once again, every week, it's a little bit of sadness and sad that I'm not busy, but it was a very nice weekend.
Yeah. Just, kind of just in general, how did last week go? It's kind of like the same thing. We never know what the next week is going to bring. So, what was good? What was bad? What'd you like? What you didn't like? How did last week go for you and go for us?
Well, I think it's funny. It could be a little bit like Groundhog Day because we just get up and we practice and we practice. So we never have the end result with the game, but the past week was great. We had on Monday, we started practices, so all the sports who are normally considered fall sports were practicing. And then on Friday, then baseball and softball also began. So we had all the fall sports. That's actually cross country. They let us off. Their first practice was Monday. Everybody else was Tuesday. And so we're hopefully on our way.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but do we have a record number of athletes now on campus because of obviously incoming freshmen, recruiting class, and then fifth-year returning players? On
Yeah.
top of everything, that
Yeah.
must be, like the added thing. It's like we already have enough to deal with. We have so many people, which is good and bad
Yeah.
at the same time.
Good and bad. We have so many people and we can't get together with them all because we have too many. So it's interesting that because of COVID and because of everything that happened in the spring, we do have probably about 80 more athletes than we normally have. So that adds to all our challenges in a very great way because we're glad to have them. But yeah, it's true. And that could happen again for a few years because this year, again, people that were playing fall sports, and if you're playing winter and you don't get 50% in, you get another year of eligibility. So yeah, we're going to have a lot of really smart student athletes with graduate degrees.
We could have some 35-year-old hockey players.
Maybe their kids will be playing at the same time.
We talk a lot about how we're in this together, we're all a team, and especially even outside of a pandemic situation, like for administrators, especially I know with our sports information team, like, our schools may be competing against each other in the field, but what we're doing, we're a team. Like we're trying to work together with people.
Yeah.
Administrators are trying to work together, not against each other. It's not competitive. It's in a fun way, but not in like any sort of malice. How have you leaned on those connections and friendships, whether it's at, the local schools, whether it's D1 experience, people you know from BC? How much have you had to rely on them for information or tips or ideas, inspiration, throughout the last 6 months while we're all trying to just figure out how to get through all of this?
Right. So another positive is that we are all working together because everybody has the same goal to get kids or get student athletes back and to get athletic departments able to have competitions. So there's probably never been a better time to share or to need to share, and we're all in it together. It really is interesting, and I think some people think, oh, we've got to start quicker, we've got to do this or that, but then everybody realized what we really need to do is just get everyone back. So if we don't do that, and if we can't come up with solutions all together, then nobody will be back. So I borrow from everyone. Division I, of course, they also have different perspectives in that some sports are still going. So I love to talk to people at BC, how they're doing it and what their precautions are and what their priorities are. And then it'll just be interesting when we think about winter sports, and you guys were talking about NCAA basketball, but that's very important to Division I. And the NCAA basketball funds most of, or a lot of the NCAA expenses. It also sends money to Division III, and it covers our championships. So, and you were saying it's going to be a smaller field. So we felt the effects too. So all of us want everything back to normal so we can all benefit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that the D1 championship, there was money in that gets funneled down below that. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I think people don't see it. You see what's in the newspapers, and we all know about Division I football. We all know, but yes, the NCAA makes most of their money, and they do make a lot of money on basketball and the tournament, and and football actually is separate. So the 1A football, when you see Notre Dame playing, but it's the basketball that makes all the money, and then Division II and III, and also the smaller sports, not smaller sports, but non-revenue, if we call it that. All that money handles all the championships, all the services. When we get to send kids to leadership development programs, that's where the money comes from. So we have to all hope it gets back.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the fallout, and we saw a number of schools. Maybe don't have to name specifics, but after the spring, some schools cut like 17 sports because it's the funding for those comes from, like you said, the footballs and in the basketballs. I think
Yeah.
sometimes those sports get a bad rap because of how much money they make, but they also then, the rising tide lifts
Yes.
all
Yeah.
ships.
Yeah. And I do think a lot of budgets, especially at the bigger schools, are based on some portion being revenue. So if you're at Penn State and you're going to sell 120,000 tickets to every football game, they rely on that. They know
Yeah.
that nobody ever thought that wouldn't happen. So now all of a sudden that money's gone. And I mean, the TV money for having some of these games is necessary, just trying for those programs to break even. And everybody thinks they have unlimited resources, but nobody does.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say it makes a much bigger difference to not have fans that say like Ohio State
Yeah.
for their football games than it does for Topa. We love Topa, but it's not
Right.
it's not where Ohio State's playing. They have
Yeah.
100-something thousand people coming to their stadiums.
Oh,
In a
yeah.
way,
And then,
no, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, right. So we won't be able to have, or we weren't going to be able to have fans anyway. And I do realize when I go around, like our numbers who can be on a field at a specific time, even somebody like if I go over and they're only supposed to have 20 or something, like you really have to be cautious now who goes, who's around, and it really has to only be essential people. So
I'm gonna have to broadcast games with a telescope, from like across a parking lot.
We'll get you a drone.
Just a drone footage. Ooh, that'd be good. Drone sky cam. In a way, does it help that there are the Division Ones who are like soldiering on and trying to play because they can kind of be the guinea pigs and we can get to learn and watch and see what they do and take all the best things, learn from their mistakes, so to speak?
Yeah, it really is. And also the image of whether one can open, hopefully we will, be playing games. They do have enough staff and they were ready and it was a priority, which helps everybody because it makes us all realize we can do it. And then, right, they can make a few mistakes and Notre Dame, Wake Forest can postpone a football game, but there are a lot of lessons to be learned. I was even glad that we were the last school in our conference to open because all our schools had been open for 3 weeks before we opened, 2 or 3 weeks. And so I could learn a lot about what you need to say, and then our coaches knew too, like, okay, we're not the first ones that are being told what you can't do.
Yep.
Somebody else went through that. So yeah, it's been interesting.
What
and
do
I
we
had
have?
my SAC hat on.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Sack. I was going to say, Sack did. We spoke with Dylan Carabia last week. He lives with the president. We were busting Paul Budasov up a little bit, but maybe talk about what Sack has done in the last week. I know they put out a great, kind of a PSA video.
Yeah, so SAC's our student athlete leadership group, and they have a great e-board, and they put out a video about COVID smarts and what you should do, and they had Sammy the Seahawk, and it's good to have them because we're able to talk on Zoom with them, but they can carry it all back to their teams and they can bring us ideas, which they're doing, and that's the best way for them all to be connected. And it's really hard. Normally we would have had a welcome back picnic with 600 student athletes. We would have had a first year orientation with 170 student athletes. So SAC, these young people have been like lifesavers for the connection between administration and the student athletes.
Exactly. Maybe just a brief kind of a look ahead. What can the week ahead look like for Salve?
Well, I think people are getting into a good routine, and the sports that started on the 21st, they have a 2-week phase in, so they'll be done with that on Friday. So which just means a little bit more activity and a few more numbers, but it's still progress. So we've made it, and honestly, Salve's COVID testings have been all good. I was going to say it's a positive thing, but of course it's negative. So
a negative to positive.
Yeah. So that's really good because if one person, we try and keep track of people, we're calling them pods, but say 10 women's soccer players, and then there's 10 who they always practice together so we can do tracing. If one has an incident, then obviously 10 have to quarantine. So we're just we're very glad that it's been going smoothly.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to another smooth week and looking forward to talking to you again next week. Thank you for being with us, Jody.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right, that's Jody Mooradian, the athletic director here at Salve Regina. We're going to return now to our head men's and women's tennis coach, Adam Zaccara. Who are you golfing? I see some clubs.
I am. I'm out
Where-
with Matt Finlays, and we just are about to get off the first tee at 3:40. So
Great. Where are you guys teeing off from?
Meadowbrook down in Wyoming.
Gotcha. Wyoming, Rhode Island, for the people who may not know.
Yes.
Adam Zaccara you guys did not hop on a flight in quarantine for 14 days to go play at a golf course in Wyoming. So yeah, you said you hadn't teed off yet. So I always say the rule, I talked to Colin Clapton, men's ice hockey alumnus, a couple weeks ago. The rule when I go golf is to leave with either the same amount or more balls than I came with. So I am not afraid to go shagging around in the rough, maybe into the fringe, into the woods. As long as I don't, come out in a deficit from the amount of golf balls I went in with, it's a good day.
This is a good time of year to find extra balls just off into the short woods there.
Yeah. Now, just while we're on the golf thing, what's your favorite club? Do you have a favorite club that you go to, like no matter what? Like, I just want to go to this club.
I like my mid irons, like 6, 7, 8 iron. I seem to hit those pretty steadily.
I have a hybrid club. It's like a 4-wood, and I use that for everything. I have a whole set of clubs. I only basically use 3. I use my putter, I use the 4-wood, and I use the driver. I don't know. I'm wasting all these other clubs, but
that's consistent golf. That means that you're hitting the ball well.
Maybe. I think doing the same thing and expecting different results is called insanity. So, but
Right.
Hey, golf is a crazy game. Adam, we wanted to talk last week. We kind of ran out of time. You have a very interesting perspective for tennis and on the CCC from having played in the 90s and now coaching today. How have you seen the sport within the conference change in that time?
It actually has changed a lot, and it's mostly due to the rules. We've got back when I played, of course, I favor those days as far as what those rules were. We would all line up both teams, and we'd announce each player who was number 1 singles playing this number 1 singles, and they'd go out and get the cannon, then everyone would clap, and they'd go out to their court and warm up for about 10 minutes before the match with each other. And they've completely eliminated that. And also now they're talking about getting rid of ad scoring, which is when you get tied in a game at deuce, you go to no ad or ad in or ad out, and then it could go back to deuce again. Now they just want to have 1 point that decides it. All of these changes are due to daylight savings time and trying to keep a match shorter, because what's happened is they've run into darkness and there's still matches going on. So I guess there's reasoning behind it, but it's all new to me.
They didn't want to just institute like a glow in the dark tennis ball, or an LED ball, something like that.
I guess there are about four schools in our conference that do have lights. We unfortunately aren't one of them. One of our courts, as Coach Habershaw pointed out to me recently, is pretty well lit, but that's only one court. The nice part of that's sometimes when you're down to the darkness, it's only really down to 1 match anyway. So, but we don't have that facility with complete lighting yet.
Yeah. So, well, it doesn't have lights, but you guys have done a lot of work on that facility. Talk about the improvements you've made to the courts and just the aesthetic of the area now.
Oh, I'm so happy and thrilled. I know all the players are as well. We've done a lot of two major changes. We brought the fences down on the sidelines to 4 feet high, where they were 12 feet. So now the viewing is tremendous. And also the other thing we did, which was great, was resurfaced and painted the courts. So now the interior of the tennis court is that nice dark blue, the navy blue like US Open, and the exterior, the background is green. It really pops. To me, they're the most beautiful courts in the conference right now. Last year, we couldn't make that claim. So we've really turned it around, and I know the team's really gung ho about keeping them clean, and a lot of pride in the venue right now.
You talk about, bringing the fences down. That has to help too, from a little bit from, from a player's perspective. If you have friends, if you have family come to cheer you on, to watch, like, you can see them. They're not behind a fence. They're not behind screens. You can see the
Yeah,
people who are there to support you, and that's part of that home court advantage, is having the people you care about there, kind of rooting you on.
I agree. It's a lot more inclusive, and as a coach, I just in practice, I've been walking up. We're social distancing, of course, and I walk on this court to court, and now I can walk from outside the court and have a nice conversation with one of my players instead of having to come all the way onto the court and maybe disrupting another court. It's opened up a lot. But yeah, the inclusiveness is great now with those fences dropped.
And I'm sure it'll help too for the on-campus, just the vibe with, now if students or anybody's walking by, oh, hey, look, a tennis match, instead
Yeah,
of feeling kind of caged off and, hey, nobody knows what's even happening over there.
I completely agree, Andrew. It's turning around for the best.
And it'll be great for photography and video for,
Yes.
for me and Ed. Um, you talked about how the team's excited for it. They're ready. How has it gone? The getting everybody here, getting going, practice, and what's the vibe around the team like so far?
It's been very positive. We're so lucky. It's funny. I was just listening to you and Jody. Yeah, that everyone's tested negative, and we've got a real positive sense out there on the courts. On both the men's and women's side, we have half of the teams are returning and half are brand new students to Salve. So new student athletes to us as well. We have one transfer student. The rest are all freshmen. 14 in all, 7 on each side, and we're just so excited to have all this new things going on. Camaraderie, the courts, the venue is new. I mean, that's apparent to everyone, regardless if you were here last year or not. You can tell that it's a brand new facility that we're playing on, and everyone's just been excited. I think people were pent up for the first few weeks of being on campus, and now we're able to go out and play the sport we love. So it's been excellent.
Awesome. Last thing, Adam, and you kind of mentioned it there. You called him coach. To me, he's Ed. He's my boss.
Yeah.
But you got to play for Ed Habershaw, the sports information director and associate athletic director here at Salve. You got to play for him, and now all these years later, I know you guys had a good relationship, and now you're working with him, and you're a coach here at Salve. What is that like?
It's amazing. It's one of the best parts of being back here is having people that I looked up to and respected, and really, and I'm not just saying this, probably one of my favorite teachers of all time, instructors, was my history teacher, Dr. John Quinn, and he happens to be the faculty liaison for tennis. He just sent me an email yesterday. He's going to come out to the courts, and he brings his racket and hits with us. And then, of course, one of my favorite people is Coach Ed Habershaw. He was my tennis coach all 4 years, and as you know, he's just such a character. And the two of you are very similar, and I love watching the two of you work together. He's just got such a great personality for the sports information desk where he works, and he was just simply, I shouldn't just say just simply, but he was the head men's and women's tennis coach back when in the early 90s, and then he developed into that sports information role amongst other things he's done. But to come back 28 years later and find a good friend like that, and he's been such a mentor to me because he was such a successful tennis coach that I call him. I probably annoy him. I call him so much, but it's been wonderful working with him. So thank you for asking me that.
Yeah, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Adam, you got a tea time, and
Yes.
like I said, hit them straight, keep
All
them
right.
straight, and just come home with more balls than you left. All right.
Sounds good, Andrew. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
All right,
Have a
take it
great
easy
day.
now. That's Adam Zaccara, the head coach of our men's and women's tennis teams. We're going to turn now to the head coach of our men's lacrosse team, Patrick Cooney. Pat, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Andrew? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you just fine.
Good.
Wanted to ask you, you brought this up in our little pre-show questionnaire that there's going to be some new face-off rules this year for men's lacrosse. What are the rules going to be? What are the changes going to be for the face-off men?
Yeah, I tell you, the face-off over the last 10 years has undergone a lot of changes with the rules for a number of reasons. I think at the highest level, some of the coaches who help dictate the rules don't want to have a championship determined by an extremely very good face-off specialist player. In the sense that it's a team sport, two teams out there, almost 100 men. You don't want one guy dictating who's going to win a national championship. So
you don't want a Curtis McKeon just deciding games?
Correct. Curtis was unique as our all-time leading face-off specialist here at Salve in the sense he was a two-way mid. He scored a lot of goals too. But back to the face-off rules for this coming year, they made a dramatic step in as much as they changed one rule in particular. It used to be called a motorcycle grip, where your palms would be down on the face-off. And that gave it a lot of advantage to certain players. So they've changed that where one now has to be up, one down. And then they've tweaked out some of the specifics of where they line up as face-off specialists, and they've tried to work with cadence, even putting an official there to make sure individuals weren't going too early. But this is a big monumental change, as well as one of the stance issues was, could you have one knee down? So the rule committee this summer specifically outlined that you needed to have your knee up. So this is a big change. A lot of young players grow up as specialists learning certain techniques, and they've invested years, especially their high school years, in this pursuit. And to see the NCAA change that quickly, the rules committee, this is definitely a drastic step. What it does is it brings a little bit more 50-50 playing to the arena, where you theoretically would have more ground balls, less dominant players, and less dependency on the face-off in general.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it pans out this year.
I'd say how much does that affect your recruiting now going forward, or
It
you
does.
like you said,
It's a lot of unknowns
specialized.
because a lot of these individuals now are trying different techniques, and even a trickle-down effect where I thought you saw some of the Division I schools pass on individuals because of maybe uncertainty, like any marketplace. And with that uncertainty, a lot of those normally projected Division I, Division II student athletes started to look into Division III just because of opportunities. There weren't really many seats at that upper table. So I thought, reaped the benefit as far as individuals coming to us, looking at us. And this has happened across the board in recruiting. We're doing well. And right now we do have two face-off specialists who are committed to the admissions process at Salve now. So that bodes well this early in the process, having two guys ready for us.
Yeah, you talked about embracing the challenge last week, and you liked that. With rule changes, I feel like your sport has changed a lot in just the last 5 years. Additions of the shot clock and some of the pace of play things. Now the face-off changing. How different of a sport is it from when you started coaching at Salve to the sport that it is now?
It's a great question. It's definitely very different. The last few years, I think the changes have come more with the profile of the sport, especially being on ESPN. They, being senior administrators, those at ESPN, want to make it fan-friendly. I think the shot clock is part of that. The face-off rules are also part of that in those big games, especially the NCAAs. But even the coming about of turf over the last 15, 20 years has really drastically changed rules, the types of players, the technology you see out there today. And I think just numbers in general. To practice full field, you'll see teams have large rosters compared to 20, 30 years ago where you'd almost have half the number. Even Salve today, we have 45 on any given year right now, whereas 20 years ago, we would be capped at about 24.
Yeah. Speaking of practice, You guys got to get out there on the field as a group. How did that go? How was the past week in trying to ramp up and get guys acclimated and,
Well, we
coach?
haven't really physically gotten after it on the field. We've done some meetings in person on the field, things of that nature, in addition to obviously Zoom and social distancing. But we've really worked individually in the sense of just making sure strength and conditioning is at the top of the, I guess you'd say, approach process right now for the individuals, in addition to just getting off on the right foot academically here 1 month in. We'll start in earnest on the field October 8th, and we'll go all the way up to Thanksgiving in mid-November.
I've asked a couple of coaches this question. Do you think that this year, battling through all the adversity, the uncertainty, and having to come up with all these creative solutions for a practice and the social distancing and the struggle of it all, in the long run can provide benefits, either because everybody, coaches, players, they have perspective and appreciation for the opportunity they have to play collegiate sports. Maybe you've learned and figured out better, newer training methods that you'd want to keep going forward, or could it be a combination of both or all of those things?
You bring up a good point. I think it could be a little bit of everything you mentioned there. But on the positive end, I think it's more how you react to that challenge, whether it's a day-to-day or the overall broad strokes. And I think with any organization, a team, an intercollegiate team in particular, that spirit, the core, the morale is key. So I think just embracing the challenges. And as you said, we're there together and we can experience all this together.
All right. Well, Pat, great to see you. Great stuff
Likewise.
as always. Look forward to talking to you again next week, and good luck with the week ahead.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. That's Pat Cooney, the head coach of the South Virginia men's lacrosse team. We're going to take a short break and be back with Eric Cirella, the head coach of our baseball team. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to Seahawk Talk. I'm Andrew Bazzelli, hosting here today. Just a reminder that we broadcast live every day, 3 to 4 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope through Twitter. Today, we're also being simulcast over Seahawk Radio. And if you can't catch the show live, you can go back and watch the archive versions of the show on all of those platforms, or you can subscribe to the Seahawk Talk podcast through Sounder FM, or just search for Seahawk Talk on all your favorite podcasting apps. And with no further ado, we want to turn now to our baseball head coach, Eric Cirella. Welcome to the program. Eric, how you doing?
Doing well, Pez. How you doing?
Good. Long time no see.
It has been. Your hair has grown.
So is yours.
I've cut it a few times.
I know you must have been thrilled, absolutely thrilled to get out onto the field last week. We saw Mike DeFusco, one of our producers, was out there, got to capture some footage of you guys getting out onto the field. It felt like spring last week, and for parts of this weekend, it must have felt really good to just kind of have that, I'm just focused on baseball for at least for this sliver of time. I'm worried about my athletes and getting better.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking that, and then a couple of campus security guys came over, and some couple of the stragglers, and because we're spread across of the whole footprint of Brother Reynolds, but just you really gotta keep reinforcing that you can't take your mask off. So I just got so excited into coaching that it's hard for 3 or 4 coaches to keep an eye on that many guys. And but as we got into the weekend a little bit more, it was certainly a little bit easier. But just telling guys, reminding them, listen, you gotta keep your mask on. You gotta do it. Control what you can control, and that's kind of the beauty of baseball too. And that's what it teaches you is you get bent out of shape about the things you can't control, the game will beat you up. So just kind of another teaching point that we had to really nail into all the guys, whether it be seniors or freshmen.
Yeah. Aside from those things, the restrictive stuff, having to
Sure.
work through that, what were you able to accomplish or at least start baseball wise?
I mean, a lot. We're, like I said, we're very very spread out, and we're trying to do our best to stay inside those guidelines. But I thought we got a lot done. Even I would say almost as much as a normal, opening weekend where we get a chance to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just got a lot of stuff done. It was just, I felt confident that we would be able to, and I think I was just happy with the response of the players who were really excited to get back out there. And with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, drills or things that maybe we're trying to do at the end of a day, I thought it was great energy and great effort and concentration. And I'm really just happy for the freshmen too, who you feel bad for, because when you're envisioning that first semester at college, they're just having to overcome a lot. At least the sophomores and the juniors and the seniors, they have friends and they know kids on the team, and they are a little bit more comfortable with everything. It was just nice for the freshmen to kind of acclimate themselves to the program and meet some guys. And I can't imagine how difficult it's been for the first 3 weeks or so. Walking around with a mask on, and you don't really, it's tough when you can't show your face and be who you are, and take a walk over to one of the older guys' dorms or houses or what have you, and just converse, talk. And that social aspect of college is really important. And I think it definitely makes it a little bit easier going forward just to get this first weekend in.
Now we saw a shot there of somebody, like you said, the mask. I don't know who it was, riding the tractor.
Yeah, Ciesco.
When
he's hurt right now.
Okay, so when you come to South Virginia to play baseball, you know you're going to be on a contending team. You also know that you're going to be getting a minor in landscaping. I don't think enough people understand what you guys do day in and day out to maintain the field. That's part of being on the team. How much does go into maintaining that field, and what advantage does a highly maintained field truly provide?
Oh, I mean, it's first and foremost, it's important to do it. I spend hours in the summer, just making sure that the fertilizer and the right fertilizers on the grass, and that the dirt doesn't get uneven in spots, because now it rains and it's going to puddle, and the right products on there, and the right mixture of all the different particles that make up the dirt. It's a lot. And when 2 of the most important months for us are usually October and April, and those are the 2 months in Rhode Island historically that have the most rain. So you really have to prepare for that. And what these guys do in the springtime with water removal and tarp duty, and I mean everything. It's a class on top of their already busy schedules, and obviously then baseball and practicing games. So I don't think the whole community gives them enough credit for really what they have to do. And I think the best thing that I can tell them is, guys, someday you're going to own a house, and when your lawn is has less crabgrass and weeds, and is greener and looks healthier than your neighbors, people are going to notice, and you're going to appreciate that. So it's just part of the process. But until we have turf That's just it. And, I like the game on a natural surface. There's just a lot of time and thinking and, obviously energy out there that goes into it.
Does that factor into the recruiting process at all? Do you have people submit lawn photos to you?
No, that does not. But, I think it's something that you discuss because there's a couple of our competitors and a couple of the teams in the region who play on turf. And listen, as a hitter, let's face it, all conference, all region, all American, that's all based on what your offensive numbers are. So when you barrel one up towards the third baseman, on a natural surface, we don't know where that thing's going to bounce some days. And sometimes it just undresses the baseman and being a double. Whereas if you do that on turf, there's a much greater chance for that guy to glove that ball because they know how that bounce is going to be. As a hitter, I'd rather play on a natural surface.
I was going to ask you that. Do you prefer playing on grass or turf?
I prefer grass, but it is easier, obviously, to go from grass to turf than it is the other way. And you see some, especially being at URI, because, my last 3 years there, we had turf, or my last 4 years there, we had turf. And we felt like when we'd go play someone in a 3-game series, that the first day on a natural surface, you're almost a step slow. And it would cost us wins. But the nice thing is it never cost you games at home because you never lost any.
Yeah. I was going to ask that too. Does having the grass field impact how you recruit players? Not about landscaping it, but about, hey, a guy played on turf his whole high school career. Can this guy handle coming and fielding on grass? How much does that factor in, even if it's a little bit?
I think it's more when you're evaluating guys, you just got to make a point to, because a lot of these events, showcases and camps and stuff can be on a turf surface. And if you don't make a point to go see a kid play on a natural surface, they can fool you. A kid who looks like, hey, this kid could play shortstop or could be a middle infielder, and then you see him on a natural surface, and he fooled you. So you just got to make sure you see guys on more than turf. And if you see them on a natural surface and you like them on a natural surface, there's a good chance, that's sufficient. But don't just see them take ground balls on turf because it's a different game.
Yeah. You kind of talked a little bit about your freshmen. How about your freshmen still / sophomores? Even though for them it was a tremendously shortened season, how much did that limited experience last year, how much will that benefit them this year? Or is it was just so minimal, it's basically just about, hey, it's still square one for some of those guys?
No, I mean, I think in all honesty, the fall is so vital to what we do because the weather is obviously a lot more conducive to baseball. I mean, look at this past weekend, 75 degrees. And if you play a game in the spring where it's 75 degrees, you're probably playing deep into May. So you're talking about a regional atmosphere in the Cape or at Trinity or, wherever we've been in the last 3 out of 4 years. You might catch a game like that in April, like somewhere north in the city or somewhere, west. But so just those guys being a part of the whole fall, being a part of the weight room and a normal weight room and having our time slots, having the ability to put on weight and get stronger, get more physical. And then, we still were able to start at the end of January. You get February, you get half of March. I think it's a huge advantage for those guys who have 4 years of eligibility and got to spend, they only were a part of 5 games and they missed out on 35 of them. But what you're able to teach guys in the fall, because our fall days can be so long and we can get so much accomplished. Those guys should not be freshmen anymore.
Yeah, they got to train as collegiate athletes for a year, even get game action, and they still have 4 years of eligibility.
Sure. And some of those guys got to play in summer leagues. It's not, baseball didn't take the hit that,
a lot of sports have taken or continue to take because, we're watching Major League Baseball and they're not in a bubble. And we had a bunch of guys play up in the Futures League and, the Newport Collegiate League. And, there was baseball this year. There was baseball. That was not an issue. There were different restrictions for each league and each state and travel and everything. But, baseball happened. And I think that bodes well for the springtime, regardless of how this fall goes on campus. Campuses everywhere, states everywhere. I think baseball has proven that we can be socially distant. We can, and we can do this, one way or another. We can play games where people are not putting anyone else in harm's way. And, I'm hopeful that everybody sees it that way.
Yeah. We got to speak with Adam Zaccara earlier in the program. He was coming to us live from a golf course, ready to tee off. I know we've brought up golf a couple of times. I know Mike brought up golf with you last week, but he forgot to ask the number one question, which is we've been having this discussion about throwing a no-hitter harder than hitting a hole-in-one. I know you haven't thrown a no-hitter, and I'm not going to count wiffle ball, backyard ball don't count. But have you ever hit a hole-in-one?
I have not. But I will say this. My sister and my mother both have a hole-in-one. So even though I don't have a hole-in-one, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say
you're related to one. You're related to two.
Oh, yeah, I'm related to both. And I don't think that they could, throw a no-hitter. So I'm gonna go with no-hitter. Perfect game is probably still the more difficult feat. I think there's just a lot of luck that goes into a hole-in-one, and sometimes the ball bounces one way, and sometimes it hits the flagstick and kicks out. I might golf for the next 40 years and never have one, or I might, have a few. I hope I have a few, but I would still put that as less significant than throwing a no-hitter.
If you hit a hole-in-one, are the odds high or low that we wouldn't hear about it for the rest of our lives?
The odds are extremely high that you would hear about it. I would have a picture. I would put it in my office. It would be the ball. It would be framed. The scorecard would be framed. Someone would attest to it. There'd be a signature and
a notary.
Yeah. Like that story is going on and on forever. And I think, as it should. And the other thing I'm going to say is Coach Zaccara, he made a strong push on the back nine. I hope we can get out there one more time this fall because he was a lot of fun to golf with.
Yeah, I'd love to join with you guys. I don't know if you heard. I was talking to him about what's your favorite club. I basically use my driver, my putter, and I have this hybrid four wood that I just love. I just punch the ball 100 yards at a time. Hey, as long as it stays straight, odds are I play with too many people. Josh Munson, he likes to try and flex those muscles and get his 3-iron going,
sure.
and he loses strokes by chucking it into the woods. So I'm just going to keep it nice and straight, 100 yards at a time, matriculating the ball down the course.
Especially when it doesn't rain in the summer, that thing's going to roll for a while.
Yeah. All right. Well, Eric, great to see you. Happy to have you on the program as always, and look forward to talking to you again next week.
All right. Likewise. Appreciate it.
All right. That is Eric Cirella, the head coach of the baseball team here at Salve, Virginia. We're going to take a short break and be back with the producers to wrap up today's show. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Seahawk Talk. Andy Pizzelli here. Like to bring in the producers once again, Mike DeFusco and Joey Morelli. Fellas, we have a couple of items to get to here at the end, but I always like to get your thoughts on anything you maybe had impressions from our guests here today.
I'm honestly really surprised Coach Cirella didn't have a hole in one, but his two sisters did. That's kind of surprising. Also, Little League. I mean, a no hitter is hard, but Little League, I feel like you might be able to squeak one out. So it's a little surprised about that from Coach Cirella.
Do you have a Little League no hitter, Mike? Is that what you're getting at? And you can hold that over him?
Yes, I didn't want to bring it up unprovoked, but no, I had one when I was like 10. It was only 5 innings because it was a 10-run rule, but I still like to count it.
Were you throwing like 40-mile-an-hour gas back then?
Oh no, I got up to 60, 50. Okay, fine, 45. No, yeah, back in the day, back in my old playing days.
Awesome, Joey. Any thoughts from our guests here today?
Nothing like in particular really, aside from like everybody like, I don't know, I say it every time. It's like I love hearing people's thoughts on things, like Coach Cirella just talking about the playing on turf and stuff and like the differences. Like I'd kind of thought about it, like that. Yeah, obviously there's a difference between playing like on real grass and turf, but I didn't think it was like that big of a difference. Like it made it sound like
it can make a tremendous difference. I've seen some great turf teams come into Brother Reynolds and completely fall apart having to play on our field. I know, Mike, you can attest firsthand to that.
Oh my, yeah, you really never know around and any. I mean, we're pretty lucky at Salve too, considering I've seen a lot of fields, Rhode Island fields in my day. Probably play at just about every one, and I mean, we by far it's like not the worst field, but yeah, you can definitely see it. You can see it come out, especially when you guys got guys coming from like Endicott, for example, who's all turf, and they play a lot of their games there.
All right. What else did we want to end the program with? I know both you guys had things you wanted to touch on.
Just to bring up quick, I just saw this as a quick little short article, no more than a couple paragraphs, but the 2020 like Citizens Pell Bridge Pell Bridge run got canceled. So disappointing there, because I know it brings in a lot of people and a lot of raises a lot of money for good causes. So unfortunate, but maybe next year,
Yeah, we'll have to talk to Rob McGinnis about that on Wednesday.
yeah.
I'm sure that's something that he I know he's done in the past. Maybe this year, with the way practice is different and everything, maybe he would have had an opportunity to do it. So I know I've wanted to do that. I don't even care where I place. I just wanted to run to the top with my camera, and then just like I didn't even care where I finished the rest of the race. I was going to take pictures from the top of the bridge. You can't pull over. You can't pull over on the bridge. And if I stop and stick my phone out the passenger window, I'm going to get pulled over. So that's the only opportunity I would have had to get pictures from the top of the bridge.
You can't even break down on the bridge, or they get suspicious.
No, it's not somewhere you want to be at a stop. At no point.
What was it? Was it Coach McGinnis who ran that like 6-hour marathon thing, or who did that? Yeah, I was gonna say. So he was probably really looking forward to it. So that sucks. Like he probably was gonna compete. He'd probably have tried.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to get his take. Joey, you wanted to talk about quickly something Greg Kay, the commissioner of the CCC, brought up. During the show.
I brought this on screen earlier. But we were who was it? We were talking to Jody Mooradian, I think. Yeah, we were talking about the funding of like D3 sports and stuff, and he just said, and he's the commissioner, so he knows the math. D3 gets 3.18% of the NCAA budget, but we're 40% of the NCAA schools, which is kind of crazy. Like that's significant.
I'd say it's one of those things. Maybe right now it's like a blessing and a curse, because normally you'd say like, oh, we wish we had this money, blah, blah, blah. But if we were over reliant on that money, and that money's coming from things like March Madness and Division I football happening, then we'd be more worried about those things not happening. Whereas the D3 school, reliant on your own endowment and just enrollment and the things happening on campus. So you're much more reliant on yourself, which means you have to do the work. You have to rely on yourself, but we don't have to worry like, oh my God, they're not playing D1 football, so Salvy's in trouble. That's not the case. And yeah, we'd love to pick Greg's brain about this next
They're
time.
still here.
Yes.
Our most reliable commenter.
Greg's a fan of the show. Greg's a fan of the
Yeah,
show.
he is.
So we love his commentary, and we look forward to
Mhm.
having him on the show again soon. But yeah, I think it's the double-edged sword. So in a way,
You're right.
right now that probably helps the smaller Division III schools, even though they're the ones that make up most of the NCAA. Being self-reliant sometimes can have its benefits. So, alrighty, well, guys, Monday in the books. Check. Trying to get through September here and get to October. Great show as always,
please.
and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow and another great show.
Yeah. See you guys tomorrow.
All right. That is Mike DeFusco and Joey Morelli for Ed Habershaw and our guests, Jody Mooradian, Patrick Cooney, Adam Zaccara, and Eric Cirella. I'm Andy Pizzelli. Hope you guys enjoyed this show, and we'll catch you guys again tomorrow on Tuesday, 3 to 4 p.m. here on the Salve Athletics Network. This has been Seahawk Talk. Catch you all later.